Now here's where it gets really interesting. And by interesting, I mean concerning. Because of that oil spike, inflation fears are back. And when inflation fears come back, bond yields go up. Okay, so what does that actually mean for you though? Simple. The 30-year Treasury yield, which basically controls what you pay on your mortgage, your car loan, your credit card, just hit 5.19%. CNBC reported this 5 days ago. And here's the part that genuinely made my jaw drop. That's the highest level since July 2007. July 2007, 1 year before 2008. I'm not connecting those dots for you. You just connected them yourself. But wait, because it actually gets worse. America's national debt right now is sitting at 123.9% of GDP. The IMF, the International Monetary Fund, published this literally last month, and they're already projecting that number hits 140% of GDP by 2031. So what does that actually mean in plain English? America is spending way more than it earns. Every single day, and it's borrowing the difference. So much borrowing that Moody's, one of the 3 biggest credit rating agencies in the entire world, just downgraded America's credit rating. Now, you know what a credit downgrade actually means, right? It's like your bank sitting down, looking at your finances and saying, yeah, we're not really sure you can pay this back anymore. Except this isn't your bank talking. This is the entire world looking at America and saying that. And for the first time in history, all 3 major credit agencies agree. America is a financial risk. Now here's where it stops being about governments and starts being about you. Because all of that, the oil, the yields, the debt, the downgrade, it doesn't stay on Wall Street. It travels straight into your kitchen, your gas tank, your bank account. Right now, Goldman Sachs says there's a 30% chance of recession in 2026. Moody's says 49%. And prediction markets have recession probability sitting at 39%, almost double what it was just 2 months ago. Now slow down for this one. 88% of Americans are feeling financial stress right now. 88%. That's not a minority. That's basically everyone you know. And the leading economic index, which is basically America's own financial health scorecard, has been falling for 6 straight months. 6 months. Straight. Falling. And in 2007, that same index was falling for 7 months, before the crash hit in 2008. Now, I want to stop here for a second, because I know what some of you are thinking right now. Yeah, but this is different. The government said GDP is growing. They said everything is fine. You know what the government said in 2007? They said the economy was fundamentally strong. Ben Bernanke, the Fed chairman at the time, sat in front of Congress and actually said, and I'm quoting him directly here, the impact of the subprime crisis is likely to be contained. 8 million jobs gone. 10 million homes lost. Trillions wiped from retirement accounts. Contained. I'm not here telling you 2008 is definitely repeating itself. I'm telling you the signs, the real signs, the ones that actually mattered last time are showing up again. Okay, I know that was a lot. And I know some of you are sitting there right now feeling a little uneasy. Maybe a lot uneasy. And honestly, good. Not because I want you scared, but because that feeling you have right now, that slight discomfort sitting in your chest, that's just your brain telling you to pay attention. And the people who paid attention back in 2007 came out the other side completely fine. Some of them came out better than they were before. So here's what I want to leave you with. Not a list of rules. Not some generic financial advice you've already heard 1,000 times. Just the real stuff. The actual moves that real people made that kept their families safe when everything around them was falling apart. Let's go. Okay, first thing, and this one is going to sound a little weird at first. Stop focusing on how much you earn. Start focusing specifically on your expenses that move. So what do I actually mean by that? Most of your expenses are fixed, right? Rent, mortgage, phone bill, car payment, those are locked in. You can't really touch them easily. But then there's the other kind. The expenses that quietly creep up without you even noticing. Groceries, gas, electricity, subscriptions you completely forgot you had. Here's what happened in 2008 that honestly nobody talks about. The people who got completely destroyed, they weren't just the people who lost their jobs. It was the people whose moving expenses had quietly crept up by $400, $500 a month over 2 years, and they had absolutely no idea, because they never tracked the expenses that move. So when the crisis actually hit, they had no buffer left to cut. Everything was already spent. So this week, not someday, not next month, this week, open your last 3 bank statements. Find every single expense that's higher than it was 6 months ago. Those are your vulnerabilities. That's where your crisis buffer is hiding right now. Now, this one is probably the most important thing I'm going to say in this entire video, so I really need you to hear this one. In 2008, the people who recovered the fastest weren't the people with the most savings. They were the people with the most transferable skills. Mike, the guy from Phoenix I told you about earlier, he was a construction project manager, genuinely amazing at his job. But his entire skill set only worked in one world, construction. When construction died, he had nothing he could take anywhere else. And right now, in 2026, with AI quietly cutting jobs across entire industries, with recession probability sitting at 39%, the question you need to ask yourself is this. If your company called you tomorrow morning and said, "We're letting you go," could you walk into a completely different industry next week and still be valuable? If the answer is no, that's not just a career problem. That's a financial emergency. Because in a real crisis, your skill is your actual income protection, not your job title, not your salary, not your company's promise. Your skill, start building one that travels. Okay, now here's the advice that's going to sound completely backwards, but just stay with me, because this is what actually separates the people who just survived 2008 from the people who came out of it genuinely wealthier. In October 2008, when the stock market was in complete freefall, when everyone around them was panicking, when the news was nothing but pure doom, a small group of people were quietly doing the exact opposite of everyone else. They were buying. Warren Buffett wrote an op-ed in the New York Times, right in the middle of the crash, and basically said, "I've been buying American stocks, and if prices keep falling, I'll keep buying." Now, I'm not telling you to go buy stocks tomorrow. I'm telling you to understand the principle. Crises create the biggest discounts in financial history. One smart investor during 2008 made a clean pivot, pulled his money out of the chaos, locked it into certificates of deposit while everything was burning, and then moved back into the market right at the bottom when things stabilized. The difference between panic and preparation is knowing this moment is coming before it actually arrives. And you now know it might be coming. So when everyone around you is panicking and prices on everything are dropping, remember this moment. That's not a disaster. That's a sale. Now this one has nothing to do with money directly, but it might honestly be the most important thing on this entire list. One of the biggest things that truly destroyed families in 2008 wasn't just the financial hit. It was that nobody in the family had ever talked about money honestly before it happened. Couples who had never once discussed what they'd do if one income just disappeared. Families who had absolutely no idea what their actual monthly expenses even were. Parents who had never told their adult kids what was really not in, their savings. When the crisis hit, those conversations happened anyway, except now they happened under maximum stress, maximum fear, maximum blame. The families that actually got through it together had already talked before it hit. So here's the advice. This week, have the money conversation you've been avoiding. With your partner, your family, whoever shares your financial life. Not a scary conversation, just an honest one. Hey, if things got genuinely hard, what's our plan? That one conversation is worth more than any financial strategy I could ever give you. And the last thing, and this one ties everything we've talked about today together. In 2007, the government said everything was fine. The bank said everything was fine. The news said everything was fine, right up until it wasn't. The people who survived 2008 developed one instinct that they never lost. They stopped waiting for someone to tell them things were bad. They started reading the signs themselves. They tracked what was happening. They watched the Fed decisions, the oil prices, the debt levels, not because they were economists, but because they never wanted to miss the warning signs again. You just spent the last 15 minutes doing exactly that. You watched the oil prices. You saw the debt numbers. You heard what Moody's said. You saw what the Treasury reported. And you connected the dots yourself. That's not nothing. That's actually everything. Because the people who get hurt in crises are always the people who found out last. You didn't find out last today, and that's the whole point of this channel. Look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you the crash is definitely coming. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe the Iran deal actually works out. Maybe the debt gets handled. Maybe 2026 is nothing like 2008. I genuinely hope so. But here's what I do know. Mike from Phoenix, he wished someone had shown him this list back in 2007. And I don't want you to be Mike. That's literally the only reason this video exists. If something in here hit different for you, send it to one person you care about. That's all. Stay ahead. I'll see you Tuesday.